very good evening to all our viewers. My name is Tewan Jabela, your host. Tonight we are engaging Dr. John Steytler, who is a local economist and former advisor in the presidency on economic affairs. Of course, he's speaking in his private capacity. And we are talking about the issue of the fuel price increases that are just not stopping in recent weeks and recent months, and other related topics. Doctor, welcome to the show. It's probably your first time here.
On the evening, the first time.
Yeah.
I was on the other one.
Yeah. No,
Yes.
so welcome and thank you for making time, really.
No, thank you for the invitation, Toivo.
Well, wonderful. So, I mean, John, the thing is, we are worried. I've never seen personally, maybe I wasn't paying attention, but I don't think in the history of our country we've have this perpetual and frequent fuel price increases, and they are happening not only frequently but also at the jumps. If you see $1.50, sometimes nearly $2, that's crazy. What is happening in this regard? Of course, people will talk about Russia and whatnot, but maybe if you can engage me on that.
Yeah, Toivo, I would like to frame the question in a slightly different manner.
Yes.
It's not just pump prices that are increasing, but we are in a general inflationary environment.
Yeah.
And I will come back to previous times because it happened before.
Yeah.
But let me just first say, for Namibia, this time is very difficult compared to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
If you look at a time not so long ago, there was a time where pump prices, crude oil prices were even negative.
Yeah.
Because the global economy almost collapsed. There was no purchasing power, demand disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And then due to a lot of printing of money from treasuries and from central banks, there has been a rapid recovery in the developed world. And that has contributed to a steady increase in demand. So since last year already, we have seen that pump prices, fuel prices have increased, but it was driven by demand and inflationary pressures. But obviously, since the beginning of the year, geopolitical pressures also came in. There's also the element of supply side constraints that the oil producing countries, they also did not see this recovery coming, and they did not invest in sufficient supply. So that has really created now the oil prices that have become so high. But the oil prices in turn, and already supported by demand pressures, now add to further inflationary pressures. So you find it's not only oil prices that are going up, but price levels in general. In the case of Namibia, our inflation is at about 6%, but in America, in Europe, it's even much higher. But why I'm saying for Namibia is particularly difficult is that Namibia could not benefit from the global economic recovery. So you find that in America, in Europe, in the rest of the world, economies have recovered and they are almost at production levels before COVID. Some of them are actually now producing at higher levels than COVID. It's what initially contributed to the fuel prices. So why is that important? It's important because when the economy recovers, it also contributes to household income. So, but you find in the case of Namibia, because we have not seen a substantive recovery, that household income is very depressed. And in fact, the income levels of the average household in Namibia is now at a level of probably at 2015. So now you have this pressure of fuel prices, you have pressure of other commodities, you have other general inflationary pressures, and disposable income has remained stagnant. So it makes it very difficult for Namibia and for the average Namibian. We are actually carrying, in my view, a much higher brunt of the impact of general prices compared to the rest of the world. At the same time, we are also not having the luxury compared to other economic territories to give support to our citizens, because if you just look at the fiscal side, this year alone we are collecting taxes of about maybe 54 billion, but we are going to spend closer to 70 billion. So we have to borrow already about 19, 20 billion. So it's very difficult for us then to give fiscal support. At the same time, if the central bank does not increase interest rates in tandem with South Africa, we can actually import more inflationary pressures. Luckily, South Africa is to some extent fighting that battle, but if South Africa does not increase interest rates fast, like in the developed world, we can expect our currency to depreciate. So what we must take into consideration is when we pay at a pump price, we pay in Namibia dollars, but that Namibia dollars has to be converted to US dollars. So there's also been a depreciation in the currency. I think in April this year, the currency was still at 14.5 to the US dollar. So if you had a $100 barrel of oil, it would cost you 1,450. As of today, the currency is about 16.8. So if the oil price didn't increase and it was still at $100, you will now pay 1,800, 1,680. So we deal with very complex matters and how to rebalance the economy. So I find it's this time compared to previous times, it's even worse.
And it's scary, John, that it's even worse. You spoke about the possibility of South Africa increasing the interest rate to sort of counter this attack on the economy and the inflation in particular. But independent of South Africa, what is it that we can do locally to sort of safeguard the people against this?
I think in the short term, there's very little that we can do. If you look at the lending price of oil in Namibia, it's the same as the lending price of oil generally in the world, give or take. Then what comes into the pump price are then different cost elements. For example, when the oil lands, it has to be insured. The industry should get a bit of a margin. The retailer should also get margin. And then there are about 4 or 5 tax elements that we have. One tax is going to the MVA fund. One tax goes to administer our roads and upgrade them. One tax will go to SACU, 4%. It's not a lot. And so the government has already now said for 3 months these taxes will be suspended. There's also a tax that goes to what we call the energy fund. It's very important. I will come back to that. But if you look at those 3 taxes that we have suspended, the SACU one is not really putting a lot of pressure because it's not adding too much to the revenue. But the fact that we have suspended the road fund levy, it's going to put pressure on the road fund administration. And maybe at some point the road fund administration will come and say, government, now we need a bailout because we have contracts, we have to pay workers. MVA fund is already alerted it. So it could be temporary. The energy fund is normally used in times where prices are increasing, and then we use the energy fund to subsidize price, and then when prices come down, we replenish the energy fund. Unfortunately, at this stage, I don't know at what level the energy fund is, but given the increases that we have seen, I don't think much support has come from the energy fund. And it could be that we've already dipped into the energy fund. And if that's the case, then at some point, if that deficit becomes too big, at some point we can no longer dip more into the energy fund. And then the energy fund might also apply for a bailout from the treasury. So we are a bit in a difficult situation. Again, on the taxes, if you look at the taxes, it may look like a lot, but if you compare them internationally, the taxes that we add onto the lending price is actually much lower than the taxes of the EU, for example. To give you an example, in the UK, the landing price of oil will be more or less the same as in Namibia. I think in Namibia a bit higher because of the distance to the market. But the pump price in the UK is already at the equivalent of 40 Namibia dollars. And so that shows the amount of taxes that the UK collects on the pump price. So we can probably still reduce the tax a bit, but not much. So now we have to look at other measures that we can do. We have to go back to maybe how we can use the oil that we have currently, the petrol, more efficiently. We have to look at in individual level, can we drive less? Can we do carpooling? Can we, unfortunately it's very difficult, can I switch to public transport? If it was in other places one could switch to public transport. So those are very difficult to implement. So we have to look at medium and long-term measures. Because as I said before, this is not the first time that we are facing this. I can recall in 2008, at one stage the crude oil price was above $150 per barrel. At a height now it was $120 per barrel, but the exchange rate was much stronger. But at that time we also had inflationary pressures, and the then Prime Minister of Namibia, Prime Minister Ngula, he then created a task team that looked into what can be done at least to mitigate, at least to protect the most vulnerable Namibians, the poorest of the poor, against these price increases that we have seen. I can recall some of the recommendations was on the tax side, some was on subsidies, some, for example, included the bulk procurement of commodities. That was actually very interesting because we realized that Namibia, when we procure in bulk, it's insignificant globally. So maybe we can even have a regional initiative where we procure in bulk together with Botswana, Zambia, so that we can get price reduction, but then make sure that the benefit reaches the poor. The thing with the tax reduction that time, I recall we focused a lot on VAT, value-added tax, and we focused specifically on products that the poor will consume, and we say let's zero rate those and I think some of them are zero rated until today. But if you zero rate from 15% to zero, then you get a benefit for 1 or 2 months, and then the price increase continues. So we have to look at a long term, and here 2 things are important for me. Number one, for the poor and for Namibia in general, we have to focus a lot on food security. And we have to really increase agricultural production significantly, because that's one of the key drivers of inflation, is that in the consumption basket is food for the poor. The second one is we have to see what can we do to raise the income levels at a household. And here we come back to a lot of things that we should have been doing, and we know we should have been doing it. How can we create confidence in Namibia that Namibia is the best place to do business in? That people want to come to Namibia. Tourists would like to come to Namibia. Companies would like to come and set up in Namibia. Namibian entrepreneurs would like to run with their businesses. So how can we improve that competitiveness and just improve the general business climate? Because if the income levels can increase, then at least it's compensate for this rising inflation that we see. But now income levels, as I said, have been stagnant. Imagine if workers have had increases. The impact would not be so bad compared to a situation where some people have the same level of income, which is a reduction in this real disposable income, and prices are going up. And remember, we also went through COVID where some people actually lost jobs, and some people got salary cuts as well. So we have to find a way to bring back economic activities.
John, we go for a quick break and then return for second half. We are back with Dr. John Steytler. John, what does all this mean for? And I know that you touched on a bit earlier on about the impact of all this on individuals in our country and businesses. I mean, we are preaching the need to trump up entrepreneurship in the country, and just as you start your small business, your small SME or whatever, you are confronted with these global and national challenges. What are the immediate impact on this kind of on these two groups?
I think the immediate impact, and I'm sorry to say this, Toivo, but I have to be blunt on it,
yes,
is that we are going to face reduction in disposable income.
Yeah.
So the income that you have this month will be more than what you will have next month.
Yeah, yeah.
If this continue.
Yeah,
and remember, it's now not only through the pump price, but it's also through other, because fuel is a lubricant, but fuel is also an input good in the production of many things.
Yeah.
So immediate thing is that we'll face tough choices to see where can we cut costs. One advice I have is maybe to go to a zero balance budget every month and say, let me spend on the things that are absolutely critical.
Yeah.
People that have higher disposable income, they can divert they can actually what we call substitute products in economic jargon. But for people that don't have that additional disposable income, it's going to be very difficult. And I think here is where we have to see then what is it that the state can do to cushion the poorest of the poor. But for those that have a bit of disposable income, I will say look at your budget again, look at your expenses and eliminate what you don't need.
The other thing, John, is I lost a bit of my point there, but from the state point of view, I mean, we are told, for example, now that even these international rating agencies, because we are already under pressure, we are being downgraded time and again. So even when you were speaking earlier about needing 19 to 20 billion to fill the budget deficit, borrowing is increasingly becoming also a challenge for our country because of how we are rated. How do we navigate our way around that?
I think one way to do it, if you look at the budget, it has two sides. It has a revenue component and it has an expenditure component. So on the revenue side, we see a bit of uptick in revenue collection, but in general, Namibians are quite compliant in paying their taxes. And I think we should continue to enforce that compliance, because the moment if people start to avoid paying taxes, it will complicate the effort that the Minister of Finance would like to do to balance the budget. So how can we do that? We can do that by encouraging people to pay tax, but we can also do that by demonstrating on the expenditure side that the money that's collected is put to the best use for Namibia. And so we also have to do the impact analysis on how we spend and eliminate items on the budget that, or reduce them that we don't really need to spend much money on, and really spend where it's critical and where there's a high impact. So that's one way. And the other one is, obviously, we need to give confidence to people that Namibia is safe to invest in. So one thing that's very important in any business, I believe, for whether it's domestic or international, is integrity and honesty. We have now some good developments in the pipeline that if it comes through, it will require from us to have the highest integrity and ethical standards. If we want to make the oil story happen, if it comes, we have to be squeaky clean, and people should not wonder whether the oil revenue will go into a black box.
Yes.
When they start to wonder about it, it creates issues of distrust.
Yes.
People should not wonder when the green hydrogen come, what will happen to it. So we have to revisit and say, can we give all those quality assurances, not to the international community, but let's give it to the Namibian public. It's one thing to say to the international community, but we have to give that assurance to the Namibian public.
Yes, absolutely. John, so in that case then, what is your general feeling about political will in our country? Because our country has also survived political scandals in recent years related to exactly what you're saying, issues of ethical leadership. You have served in the SWAPO think tank, which I think it's a good intention to have party intellectuals really guiding the party. But how important will it be, especially from a political point of view, that we really are perceived to be that squeaky clean kind of political environment that allows for the free flow of investment, to build trust, and to just go into that direction that will help us recover?
I think at a high level, the political will cannot be questioned. I see it is there. And in this particular case, if you look at His Excellency, the President of Namibia, he always preaches that cleanliness. His mantra is processes, systems, institutions, accountability, trust. He doesn't like to see business people. He directs them to ministers. But I think we have maybe to look not only at the high level, and perhaps it's not a matter of political will, but it's something that I will say at different levels in the system. Do we have the confidence to tell the political leaders what the situation is instead of what they would like to hear? So it's up to all of us to say these are the facts. It's like when you ask me the question on what can we do now on the oil prices. I can't come and put up dreams, say, let's start now agriculture, let's do this now. These are things we should do, and it will be important for future. But at this current point in time, my take is, as a technocrat, there's very, very little we can do to reduce the pump price. We can maybe reduce taxes a little bit, but by next month the pump price will be back where it is. So we have then to navigate around how we manage that difficult situation. But we have to tell people, what is doable, and not just say that things can happen, but then it doesn't happen.
It's a good point. The last question, John, in not so many words, if you can help me there, because we've run out of time, is your thoughts around, you spoke very convincingly about the need for agricultural production as one of the measures to actually counter what is happening, especially from an inflation point of view. But what are your thoughts on these green schemes? We are told, because there's a huge debate, they should be left in the hands of the local business people, or government must continue to run them. The SWAPO think tank, one of the papers by Dr. Andrew Nikondo and another person, says they must be put in the hands of regional councils. But I mean, whatever whoever is managing them is not very much the most important point, but they are up for the taking now, as we know. What must be done there, in your view?
I think we have to be very pragmatic. One of the things I wouldn't support, and maybe there are good reasons why the think tank said regional councils, but I wouldn't support it. But what I will support, if it's from the perspective of inclusion, that we have to bring in Namibians to participate, then it's different. But who should run it? It should be run very efficiently and effectively. And so we should maybe also have a blended approach. We should also ask, what is it that we want to grow on the green schemes? In some instances, it may be high value crops that can earn for us also foreign exchange. In some instances, it may be for domestic supply. So I think we need to do a bit more homework. How do we really want to do the green schemes? What we must also consider is that food security at a household level may not necessarily happen in the green schemes, but happen at the communal areas. So I think we also need to invest more in improving the productivity of the land and agricultural practices in communal areas where many of our people are staying.
Wonderful. John, thank you very much for making time to be with us on the show.
Thank you, Toivo.
Wonderful. That is Dr. John Steytler. He's a local economist giving us his 2 cents on the current economic situation in the country and the globe.